everybody, this is Liam Billingham, Special Projects Manager for Brooklyn Free Speech, and this is the new Rodecaster Pro, which is our podcasting board. We're hoping that this board will simplify some of the workflow in the studio and make you able to get to recording faster. This board was designed for podcasting, so that's a big advantage. Let's talk about the steps that you will need to know to use this board. We're not going to cover everything because some of it is not really going to work in video form, but make sure to consult the packet that we've made for your reference. The first thing is that there is a red button on the back of the board. Sky, get in there. Yeah, okay. Right here. Red button. That's
fingers covering it.
That's the on and off switch. You will need to turn the board off when you're finished with it and on when you arrive. The reason for that is that this board takes a mini SD, but we want to alleviate your needing to buy a mini SD card and let you use a standard SD card, so we got a fancy little adapter here. Also, if you've ever worked with mini SD, it's very fragile, so we want to make this simple and make it so that you don't have to manipulate any fragile parts. So what you're going to do, make sure that when you sit down at the board, make sure the board is off. And you are going to just put the SD card into the slot, the adapter slot here. You can see it right there, and push it down until it clicks. Once it clicks, it should be good, and then you can turn on the board by hitting that red button. And the board will pop on here. So when you put your SD card in the slot, it might ask you to reformat it. If it prompts you to reformat, you should do it. We recommend you do reformat it. Anyways, go into the menu, click on Hardware, Micro SD card, and then just choose Erase SD card. And that will, you just drag across and release, and it will erase the card. The card gets erased, and you can start from there, and you'll have all the space on the card that you need. The board has a series of menus and a variety of controls on it. The first 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 here are for the microphone inputs on the back of the board. Those will be set up. The person who is mixing and engineering the show should be monitoring on the headphones plugged into 1. So that we'll label that, it'll be really clear like it was on the old board. But the person who's engineering the show should be running on 1, and we'll talk about why. You then have 2, 3, and 4, which will be your other mic ins. And then over on the right here, you have the USB, which is the computer input. You can play YouTube clips and stuff like that, or whatever you want from the computer in the podcast studio. You also have a phone in, which if your phone has a jack on it, you can plug it right into the board. And you also have Bluetooth, so you can pair your phone or computer with the device. All of these are for playback. And then the final little panel over here, the final little fader, these are all faders, is the sound pad fader. So we'll talk a little bit about the sounds that exist over here, but you can use this to playback pre-programmed sounds. So when I sit down at the board, the first thing that I'm going to want to do is just check that the SD card light is green here. If the SD card light is not green here, contact public equipment or engineering, because there might be an issue that you're going to need to resolve. And we do not want you playing with the mini SD card here in the back. We need to make sure that that stays in and in the right position. But the first thing I'm going to do, if I'm going to sit down and record, is I'm going to pop my headphones on. And I'm going to turn up headphones for whoever happens to be listening. So in this case, I'm only set up with 1 microphone. So I'm just going to turn, and I'm the only person wearing headphones. So I'm just going to turn this up to right about 1 o'clock, to right about right here as a starting point. So that's going to be my starting point for recording. And then I'm going to want to turn up my levels on the board. Now, as I said, there are menus in here, but we've configured the board for very simple recording, and we ask that you don't make changes in the menus. We've set it up and we want it to remain the way that it is, and it'll give you the best, simplest result for what you're trying to do. If you have any issues, again, check in with public equipment or engineering, and they can help get the board into the right setup for simple recording. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn up channel 1, and I'm going to start with channel 1, and you can see the levels kind of bouncing up and down here, and I can start to hear myself. And I'm gonna bring this to about 7 ticks up. So from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And when I get on the mic, you'll notice that the levels here, it might be a little hard to read on the screen, but the levels are bouncing up and down, and they're hitting around a little white, all of the little bars here to the right of the leveler. There's a little, let's say, brighter light little position here, and you can see that it's bouncing up and down. And that little tick will tell you that you're hitting about the level of unity where you want to be when you're recording, so this will be a good level. And because we're recording to an SD card, none of the signal will be lost. So you want to adjust this so that the level is consistently hitting around the same spot. And you'll notice the levels are bouncing up and down here, and that means that this is giving you the overall mix. If I had more microphones here, I would adjust those levels too. In fact, I'm going to put 2 up right now.
Check.
And I can hear Sky. Sky, talk for me.
Hey, how's it going, Liam?
Good, how are you?
Oh, I'm great.
So Sky's a softer speaker, so I'm going to have to bump up his level a little more. Sky, what'd you have for breakfast?
I had an egg sandwich.
Where from?
From my kitchen.
You made the egg sandwich. That's very good.
All by myself.
Whoa, I'm proud of you. Okay, so we've got Sky's level there, and we'll have to make some adjustments. Again, we've set the internal levels so that these faders are just going to be useful for your setting the levels. If you want to do playback from YouTube or from the computer, all you have to do is bring up the website or bring up the audio file, whatever it is that you have from the computer that you want to use, and just turn up the level of the board to about 7, give or take, and you will get playback from the computer. It's that simple. It's very similar to the old board, but just a little simpler in those terms. If you have a phone,
I have a phone.
There is a phone jack. If you have a phone with a phone jack, there is a plug. Sky, you want to show everyone the plug on the back of this board? There's a little plug that has the same icon. It's a little iPhone icon right here. You can plug your phone in there, and then you can adjust the phone level on the board here. Finally, if you want to pair your phone with the board to do a call-in show, all you have to do is click the Bluetooth button here, and there's a few steps you have to follow. They're detailed in the packet, and honestly, the screen makes it really easy. And then you would just adjust the volume here. At the end of your session, please unpair your phone by pushing this button again, because if you don't, well, the next time the board is on, it will search for the old phone, and that could make it so that the next person can't connect. So please unpair your phone at the end of the session if you use it. These are all different ways that you could do different kind of effects or playback or all these things, and you can experiment a little bit to see what works best for your workflow. You'll notice along the bottom, under each one of these panels, there is a green button and a red button. The green button the red button will mute the track. So for example, if I hit this button right here, I can no longer hear myself because I'm being muted. This would be useful if, for example, you wanted to have a track prepped or have something prepped, but you didn't want to hear it until a certain point. So you could mute and unmute that track, for example, some kind of sound effect or something. There's also a solo button. The solo button is a little trickier. The solo button will solo whatever channel that you happen to be listening to. So for example, if I were talking into 2 here, if I were to hit 2 and Sky were to talk into channel 2,
I'm talking into channel 2.
This is the only channel that we can hear. Right now, I can't hear myself because the only thing soloed is channel 2. Soloing only affects the first channel. So the only person that can hear soloing is the person who is wearing the headphones for channel 1, which is the master channel. Okay. Finally, let's talk a little bit about these wonderful sound pads here. Now you'll notice that there's 8 sound pads. 3 of them are lit up. The 3 pads that are lit up have a sound paired with them. If I hit this button, I'm going to hear the sound of LaToya Johnson saying, "You are listening to Brooklyn Free Speech Radio." These pads at the bottom we've set aside for tags for shows that are produced here. We'd love for you to throw the tag on your show. You can add whatever sounds you want to these 6 panels here. You can do it through the app on the computer. That will be detailed in your packet. You could also conceivably record right into the board by going into the menu here and hitting sounds, and then just pairing playback with any of these. So for example, I could hit this one right here, hit record, and I'm talking dot 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 dot. Hello, this is a tag, this is a tag. When I'm done recording, I'll hit stop. And now this panel, sound number 6, has the sound that I just recorded, that if I hit this button now, I can hear the playback of that effect. So that you can either do it here or you can do it on the computer. That's detailed in your packet. We have not talked at all about actually recording because it's super easy. When you've got your levels set, when you've got everything ready to go, all you do to record is you hit the big record button right here. It's green when it's ready to go, it's red when it is recording, and you'll get a nice little digital display ticking up there. If something happens and you want to note it, for example, if there's something you know you want to edit right around when it's speaking, you can hit add marker right here, and that will add a little marker in the spot where you wanted to do that. You only have to hit it once. When you're done recording, just hit record here, then it will stop. If you want to check playback, if you want to hear the podcast, it's super easy. Just go into the menu here, go to podcasts, and press play.
There you go.
And that will play whatever your podcast happens to be, so you can play it back there. You can't currently record directly to the computer. You do have to record to an SD card. So when you're done with your session, when you're finished recording and you've checked your playback, please turn off the board and eject your SD card very gently and pull it out. And leave the board as you got it. If you have any questions or any concerns, or if the board sounds strange or unusual, check in with public equipment or engineering so that they can set it up optimally. We spent some time configuring the settings for our microphones and how things work, and we ask that you don't change those settings. And if you have an additional need or need support, talk to public equipment or engineering so that if you do make changes, they can be restored before the next user uses the board. That is just about it. I don't think there's anything else to cover. Thanks very much. If you have questions, again, if you have problems with the board, you can reach out to me or a member of the public equipment or engineering team, and we can support you. This board is brand new. It's a really great addition to what are already existing podcast features, and we ask that you please treat it like it's your own. Thanks very much, and happy podcasting.